Chosen one. Stop everything you're doing right now. Do you feel that? That trembling in your chest? That unexplainable heaviness pressing against your ribcage like something ancient is trying to break free? You didn't stumble onto this message. Heaven itself pressed pause on eternity to speak directly to you in this exact moment. This is not coincidence. This is divine interruption. Let me ask you something that's going to pierce straight through your soul. How many nights have you woken at 3:33 a.m. with your heart racing, staring at the ceiling, knowing something massive is coming, but you can't name it? How many times have you felt like a stranger in your own life, like you're carrying weight that doesn't belong to this world? Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You've been marked, selected. Your name is written on a scroll that just opened in heaven's war room, and every force of darkness is trembling because they know what's about to be unleashed through you. The first week of July, 2025. Listen carefully. It's not just 7 days on a calendar. It's a prophetic gate, a spiritual portal that's been sealed for generations, waiting for this moment, waiting for you. You've felt the stirring, haven't you? That restlessness that won't let you settle. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's destiny knocking on the walls of your comfort zone, demanding to be born. Before we go one word further, and this is crucial, I need you to do something that will shock the spiritual realm. Type 777 in the comments right now. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now. That's not just a number. It's your signature on a spiritual covenant. It's you telling heaven, yes, I'm ready for what you've been preparing me for. Something is about to shift so dramatically in your life that you'll look back at this very moment, this exact second. You're watching this as the before and after line of your entire existence. To every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks, your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But here's what's going to shatter everything you thought. You thought you knew about timing, about waiting, about God's plan for your life. The hiding is over. Tell me something, and be honest with yourself. How long have you been carrying this unexplainable weight in your chest? How many mornings have you woken up feeling like you're living someone else's life? Like there's something massive brewing just beneath the surface of everything you can see. You thought it was stress, didn't you? You blamed it on getting older, on the world going crazy, on everything except what it really is. But deep down, in that place where your soul whispers truths your mind isn't ready to accept, you've known, you've felt it coming. That restlessness that won't let you settle into comfortable routines anymore. That strange discomfort when people talk about normal life like it's going to last forever. That pressure building behind your eyes when you watch the news, when you see the chaos spreading, when you sense something ancient stirring in the foundations of everything we once trusted. Dear chosen one, what you've been experiencing isn't aging, it's alignment. You see, there's something the comfortable church won't tell you, something that would shake people awake if they truly understood it. Scripture declares in Romans 8:19 that creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. But here's what'll stop you cold: that groaning, that travailing, that cosmic birth pang Paul describes. It's not happening somewhere out there in space. It's happening right here, right now, in you. Creation is groaning, beloved. The very fabric of reality is stretching, preparing for something so massive that heaven itself has been holding its breath. And you, why or ware, part of that birth process. That's why you can't sleep at night. That's why comfortable conversations feel empty. That's why your spirit jumps when you hear words like remnant and chosen, and such a time as this. The prophet Joel saw it coming when he declared, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." But listen carefully, this isn't future tense anymore. This is now tense. The outpouring has begun, and it's hitting the spiritually sensitive first. You've been having those dreams, haven't you? Not the regular kind that fade with morning coffee, but the vivid ones that stick to your soul like prophecy. Dreams where you're standing in places you've never been, speaking words you've never learned, carrying authority you don't remember receiving. You wake up trembling, not from fear, but from recognition, like your spirit just remembered something your mind forgot. And those numbers, my God, the numbers that keep showing up everywhere you look. 111, 333, 1111, like heaven is sending you telegram after telegram, begging you to wake up and realize this isn't coincidence. These are divine timestamps, marking moments when eternity bleeds through into time. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, where most people shut down and go back to their spiritual slumber. Jesus himself warned us in Luke 21 that there would be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Look around you right now. Nations in anguish? Check. Perplexity at every level of society? Double check. The very foundations of what we thought was solid governments, economies, institutions, they're all shaking like houses built on sand. And while everyone else is panicking, asking, what's happening to our world? You're asking a different question. What is God preparing us for? That's the difference between the chosen and the comfortable. The comfortable see chaos and run for safety. The chosen see chaos and recognize preparation. You remember that feeling you had as a child, don't you? That sense that you were here for something bigger than just existing, bigger than just getting by, bigger than just making it through another day. They told you to be realistic, to settle down, to stop dreaming so big. But that feeling never left, did it? It just went underground, waiting for this moment when heaven would call it back to the surface. The first week of July 2025, I'm telling you right now, that's not random. That's not my idea or some prophetic guesswork. Something has been set in motion in the spiritual realm, and it's converging on those 7 days like a cosmic countdown. The enemy knows it, which is why he's been working overtime to distract you, to exhaust you, to convince you that what you're sensing isn't real. But your spirit knows better, doesn't it? Your spirit recognizes the season we're in because it was created for this very hour. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, before your first breath touched earthly air, heaven marked you for such a time as this. Esther didn't feel ready when Mordecai told her the kingdom's survival depended on her courage. David didn't feel qualified when Samuel poured oil on his head. Moses sure didn't feel equipped when God called him from a burning bush. But feeling ready and being ready, those are two completely different things. And you, dear one, have been made ready through every trial that tried to break you, every disappointment that could have destroyed you, every season of hiddenness that felt like punishment but was actually preparation. If this is confirming something deep in your spirit, something you've been afraid to name out loud, don't keep it to yourself. Share this message right now. Someone's breakthrough is tied to your obedience. Someone's awakening is locked behind your willingness to step out of spiritual hiding and declare, yes, I feel it too. The question burning in heaven right now isn't whether you're chosen that was settled before time began. The question is, will you answer when your name is called? Listen to me, dear one. Come close. Let me speak to that place in your heart that's been bleeding in silence for decades. You've been asking the question, haven't you? In the quiet hours, when sleep won't come, when the house feels too empty, when your bones ache with memories of what used to be. You've whispered it into the darkness, "God, where were you when I needed you most?" When you buried your spouse after 53 years of marriage, when you watched your children move 3 states away, building lives that somehow don't include Sunday dinners anymore. When the doctor looked at you with those eyes that said everything without saying anything at all. When your hands started shaking and your memory started slipping and suddenly you felt invisible in a world that worships youth. You've carried pain that has no name, grief that has no expiration date, dreams that died so quietly you didn't even get to say goodbye to them. But what if I told you something that would change everything? What if the very suffering that nearly broke you was actually the setup for your greatest hour? Hidden like a seed beneath winter soil, you've been preserved, not forgotten, not abandoned, preserved. God didn't leave you in that hospital room when the machines flatlined. He was right there, collecting every tear in his bottle, writing every cry in his book. He didn't miss the nights you sat in your car in the church parking lot, too proud to go in and too broken to drive home. He saw it all, and he was working. Isaiah 43:2 becomes personal when you're 83 years old and still breathing. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. You walked through fire, didn't you? The fire of watching your parents take their last breath. The fire of raising children in a world gone mad. The fire of working 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. The fire of staying married when everyone else was getting divorced. The fire of keeping faith when the church let you down. But look at you now. You didn't come out smelling like smoke. You came out carrying the fragrance of glory. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of battles you survived. Every gray hair is a trophy of wisdom earned through tears. Every slow step you take carries the weight of generations who never got the chance to walk as far as you have. The world sees you as past your prime, but God sees you as perfectly positioned. Do you know why you're still here when so many others have gone home? Do you know why your heart is still beating when the obituaries are full of people younger than you? It's not luck. It's not good genes. It's divine appointment. You've been preserved for this exact moment, for this first week of July 2025, for a purpose so profound that hell itself has been trying to take you out before you could fulfill it. Job understood this. After losing everything, his children, his wealth, his health, after sitting in ashes and scraping his sores with broken pottery, he said something that will revolutionize how you see your own story. In Job 42:5, he declared, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." The suffering wasn't random. It was revelation training. God was teaching you to see him not just in the good times, but in the fire. Not just in the answered prayers, but in the silence. Not just in the victories, but in the valleys. And now you see him differently than anyone who hasn't walked your road. You know his faithfulness isn't a theory, it's your testimony. This week, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The pain you thought was punishment is being revealed as preparation. Every loss was making room for a gain so magnificent you couldn't have contained it in your younger, smaller faith. You thought you were too old, too tired, too broken, too forgotten. But what if being 75 is exactly the right age for what God is about to do through you? What if the tremor in your hands is actually the trembling of anointing that's been building for decades? What if the slowness in your step is because you're carrying weight, spiritual authority, that younger people can't even comprehend? The scroll of your life is turning, not closing, turning to a chapter you never imagined. A chapter where your scars become your credentials, where your pain becomes your platform, where your age becomes your advantage. This first week of July 2025 isn't just another week in your retirement. It's the week when everything you've suffered finally makes sense. When the setup becomes the setup for something so beautiful, so powerful, so necessary that you'll understand why you had to wait until now. The question burning in heaven's throne room right now isn't whether you're qualified. It's whether you're ready to let God turn your mess into your message, your test into your testimony, your breakdown into your breakthrough. Because ready or not, your finest hour isn't behind you. It's 7 days away. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will shatter every assumption you've made about timing, about waiting, about why your breakthrough has felt so elusive. July isn't just another month flipping on your calendar. It's a portal disguised as ordinary days. And the 1st of July through 7th, 2025, those 7 days carry more prophetic weight than the last 7 years of your life combined. You've been asking God, when? When will things change? When will the doors open? When will my season come? But here's the shocking truth that's going to hit you like lightning. God stopped whispering your name months ago. He's been summoning you. The question isn't when he's going to move, it's when you're going to respond to the move he's already made. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you felt like you're living in spiritual slow motion while everyone else races ahead? How many nights have you collapsed into bed, wondering if God even remembers your address? You've been faithful. You've been patient. You've been everything they told you to be. Yet here you are, still waiting, still hoping, still believing for something that feels perpetually out of reach. But what if I told you that every single delay, every closed door, every not yet was heaven strategically positioning you for this exact window? What if your waiting wasn't punishment? It was preparation for a moment so significant that arriving early would have destroyed you. The prophet Habakkuk understood this divine tension. God spoke to him clearly in chapter 2, verse 3. Though the vision linger, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Notice those words, it will not delay. Not might not delay or probably won't delay. It will not delay. The vision has a divine appointment, and that appointment is now staring you in the face. But here's where it gets dangerous for your comfort zone. You've been praying for God to interrupt your ordinary. You've been begging for a breakthrough. You've been crying out for a sign. Well, chosen one, heaven is about to grant that prayer in ways that will terrify your flesh and ignite your spirit simultaneously. The 1st of July marks the beginning of a spiritual threshold that will separate the merely curious from the truly committed. This isn't another prophetic word you can file away for someday. This is a divine summons with an expiration date. And if you miss this window, the next one might not open for years. You want to know why you've felt so restless lately? Why you can't settle into the routines that used to comfort you? Why familiar places feel foreign and comfortable relationships feel constraining? It's because your spirit is already sensing the atmospheric shift. Your soul is responding to frequencies your mind hasn't caught up to yet. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that nothing's changing, that you're stuck in permanent limbo, that your dreams are just wishful thinking. But every attack against your faith, every whisper of doubt, every wave of discouragement has been his desperate attempt to keep you from recognizing this moment. Because he knows something you're just beginning to understand. When God's chosen ones step into their appointed timing, hell loses territory. Here's the revelation that's going to rock your world. You weren't waiting for a shift. God's been waiting on your yes. That's the real delay. Not his reluctance to bless you, but your hesitation to fully surrender to what he's been preparing. Every test you've passed, every trial you've endured, every season of silence you've survived has been building your capacity for what's coming. God doesn't trust his greatest assignments to his newest believers. He entrusts them to those who've proven faithful in the wilderness, reliable in the waiting room, unshakable in the storm. You've been wondering why your journey looked so different from everyone else's, why your path has been marked by more valleys than victories, more questions than answers, more isolation than inclusion. It's because ordinary assignments require ordinary preparation. But what God has planned for your life in this upcoming window is anything but ordinary. The first week of July 2025 isn't just about personal breakthrough, it's about generational shifting. The decisions you make, the obedience you choose, the faith you demonstrate in those 7 days will echo through your bloodline for decades. Your children's children will walk in freedom because of the courage you show in this moment. But let me warn you, this portal won't wait for your convenience. It won't pause for your comfort level. It won't adjust to your timeline. Divine appointments operate on heaven's schedule, not your personal preference. When God says now, the only safe response is immediate obedience. You're standing at the intersection of divine timing and human choice. The stage has been set. The players are in position. The only question remaining is whether you'll step onto the stage or remain in the audience of your own destiny. So, I'm asking you directly, are you ready to stop rehearsing for your breakthrough and start walking in it? Are you prepared to exchange your prayer list for your assignment? Because the moment you say yes truly, completely, without reservation, everything changes. Comment, I'm ready right now. Not when you feel prepared, not when circumstances align. Now, let heaven and hell know you're stepping into alignment with God's timing. Because ready or not, July is coming. And it's bringing everything you've been believing for. The question is, will you be positioned to receive it? Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Every single thing that broke you, it wasn't breaking you, it was building you. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every moment you felt like you couldn't take another step, heaven was forging a weapon. You think you're wounded? No, beloved, you are weaponized. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How many times should you have quit? How many storms should have destroyed you? How many people walked away when you needed them most? Yet here you are, still breathing, still believing, still standing. That's not luck. That's divine engineering. The Apostle Paul declares in Romans 13:11, the hour has already come for you to wake from your slumber. This isn't sleep he's talking about, this is spiritual amnesia. You've forgotten who you really are. You've been so focused on your scars that you missed the strength they created. Let me ask you something that's going to pierce your soul. Why do you think your path has been so different? Why couldn't you just live a normal, comfortable life like everyone else? Why did trauma find you early? Why did rejection follow you? Why did doors slam in your face when others walked through effortlessly? Here's the shocking truth. God doesn't train his generals in comfort zones. He forges them in fire. Your loneliness? That wasn't punishment. That was insulation. God had to separate you from the crowd because what he was building in you couldn't be contaminated by their limited thinking. Your rejection? That wasn't cruelty, that was direction. Every door that closed was God steering you away from counterfeit destiny toward your real assignment. You thought you were being forgotten, but you were being prepared. You thought you were being punished, but you were being positioned. Every single tear you cried in secret, every prayer you whispered in desperation, every moment you felt like giving up it, was all building something inside you that this world has never seen before. David didn't kill Goliath because he was the strongest warrior in Israel. He killed Goliath because he'd already faced the lion and the bear in the wilderness where nobody was watching. Your wilderness wasn't wasted time, it was warrior training. But here's what's going to blow your mind. You didn't just survive the war. You are the weapon now. Think about it. What kind of person can look betrayal in the face and still choose forgiveness? What kind of soul can walk through depression and still worship? What kind of spirit can lose everything and still say God is good? That's not normal human behavior. That's supernatural strength. That's divine DNA. You carry something hell fears, and they know it. That's why the attacks came early. That's why the warfare was so intense. The enemy saw glimpses of your future, and it terrified him. He tried to take you out before you ever discovered who you really are. But every weapon formed against you has failed. Every scheme to destroy you has backfired. Every attempt to silence you has only made your voice stronger. You are still here, and that alone is a miracle that shakes the foundations of darkness. The chains are breaking across your bloodline. Can you feel it? That generational curse of poverty, addiction, fear, rejection, it's not just ending with you. It's being shattered by you. Your children will walk in freedom because you chose to walk through fire. Your grandchildren will inherit blessing because you refuse to bow to the curse. But listen carefully, this isn't about what's happened to you. This is about what's about to happen through you. The first week of July 2025 isn't just marking your personal breakthrough. It's marking the moment when God unleashes you as his weapon against every system that has held his people captive. You've been asking God, why me? Why this struggle? Why this pain? Wrong question. The right question is, what am I carrying that required this level of preparation? Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he led a nation out of bondage. Joseph spent years in slavery and prison before he saved Egypt from famine. Esther was orphaned and hidden before she saved her people from genocide. Your pain wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation for a purpose so massive that ordinary training wouldn't have been enough. The tears you cried weren't wasted, they were watering the ground for a harvest that's about to spring up. The prayers you prayed in desperation weren't unanswered, they were loading the chambers of heaven with ammunition for the battles you're about to win. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a victor trained by them. You are not damaged goods. You are a divine weapon, battle-tested and heaven-certified. And now comes the moment when everything you've endured finally makes sense. When every scar becomes a medal of honor. When every tear becomes a river of breakthrough for others. When every battle you fought alone becomes the blueprint for an army of others who will follow in your footsteps. The enemy thought your silence meant surrender. But silence was never defeated, was the calm before the storm. And the storm isn't coming. The storm is here. The storm is you. Beloved, we've reached the moment where heaven stops whispering and starts commanding. You feel it, don't you? That earthquake in your chest. That's not your heart racing, that's eternity breaking through time, and you're standing at ground zero. Look at me, right now, through this screen, into your soul. How long have you been waiting for permission to step into who you really are? How many years have you spent apologizing for the fire God lit inside you? How many decades have you dimmed your light because others couldn't handle the brightness? This isn't just your moment, dear one. This is theirs too. Your children, your grandchildren, the bloodline that comes after you. Every generation that will either walk in freedom or remain in chainsit, all depends on what you do in the next 7 days. You think this is about you getting a breakthrough? Think bigger. Think generational. Your yes doesn't just unlock your prison cell, it demolishes the entire generational jail that's held your family captive for decades. Your obedience becomes their inheritance. Moses stood before the Red Sea with 2 million people behind him and Pharaoh's army charging ahead. The water didn't part because Moses felt ready. It parted because Moses stepped forward when God said, "Go." The Bible tells us in Exodus 14:21, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind. Notice that. Moses had to stretch out his hand first, before the miracle, before the evidence, before it made sense. You've been standing at your Red Sea for months, maybe years, complaining about the water, analyzing the depth, calculating the impossibility. But God isn't asking for your mathematics. He's asking for your movement. Here's what's going to shock you. You were not meant to be a spectator in your own life. You were marked to be a trailblazer. While others sit in the stands, eating popcorn, watching life happen to them, you were designed to make life happen through you. But here's the brutal truth that's going to cut through every excuse you've been nursing. Every day you delay, every week you hesitate, every month you think about it. You're not just postponing your destiny, you're stealing from the generation behind you. Your grandfather's prayers are hanging in the balance. Your grandmother's tears are waiting for vindication. The ancestors who died without seeing their breakthrough, they're watching from heaven's balcony, wondering if you're going to be the one who finally says yes. The first week of July 2025 isn't just marked on your calendar, it's carved into heaven's timeline. This is your Esther moment. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Esther 4:14. But Esther had to make a choice. Risk everything, or watch her people perish. Comfort or calling. Safety or significance. What's your choice going to be? If you could see for just 30 seconds what's waiting on the other side of this week, you'd drop everything and run through that door. You wouldn't walk. You wouldn't hesitate. You wouldn't ask for more confirmation. You'd run, because on the other side of your obedience is a version of yourself you've only glimpsed in dreams. A version that speaks and situations shift. A version that prays and strongholds crumble. A version that shows up and atmospheres change. That version isn't waiting for next year. It's waiting for next week. But here's what the enemy hopes you never realize. This portal doesn't stay open forever. Divine windows have expiration dates. Ask the 5 foolish virgins in Matthew 25. They thought they had time. They thought the door would wait. They were wrong. The oil in your lamp is either burning bright right now, or it's running dangerously low. And when the midnight hour comes, when that portal opens, you'll either step through in power or watch it close from the outside. I'm going to ask you to do something that might feel uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It's going to separate the spectators from the participants, the curious from the committed. Stand up where you are. Yes, right now, even if you're on the subway, even if you're in your living room, even if people are watching, your destiny is worth more than their opinions. Look up. Lift your hands, open your mouth and declare with the authority of someone who knows they're chosen. I choose my crown. I walk through the portal. I align with heaven's calendar. Say it again, louder this time. I choose my crown. I walk through the portal. I align with heaven's calendar. Do you feel that? That's the sound of chains breaking. That's the vibration of doors unlocking. That's heaven responding to a heart that finally stopped negotiating and started declaring. But the declaration is just the beginning. The real test comes in the next 7 days, when doubt whispers, when fear knocks, when comfort tries to seduce you back into spiritual sleep. This is your Moses moment. Your Red Sea is right in front of you. The water looks impossible. The enemy is charging. The people are complaining, but God is waiting for you to stretch out your hand. Will you step forward into the impossible, or will you die in the wilderness of what if? What began in the first week of July wasn't a climax, it was a trigger, and now the ground is no longer steady. Chosen one, stop for a moment and listen to what your spirit is telling you. Something has changed, hasn't it? Not just around you, but within you. The air feels different. Time feels compressed. Your dreams have taken on a weight they never carried before. If you felt strange, disoriented, detached lately, it's not confusion, it's realignment. God is turning the page while you're still holding the last chapter. You see, what happened in those 7 days in July wasn't the end of the story. It was heaven pulling back the curtain just enough to show you what's been building in the spiritual realm for decades. And now, dear one, that momentum is accelerating at a pace that would terrify the unprepared. Have you noticed how your old routines feel hollow now? How conversations that once satisfied you now leave you empty? How places that used to bring comfort now feel suffocating? That's not depression speaking to you, that's your spirit, recognizing it has outgrown the container it used to call home. The prophet Jeremiah knew this feeling when God told him in chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." You're experiencing what happens when divine purpose collides with human limitation. The vessel is cracking not because it's weak, but because what's inside has become too powerful to remain hidden. But here's what's shaking the foundations of heaven and hell right now. This shift isn't happening to you alone. Across this nation, across the globe, chosen ones are waking up to the same spiritual frequency. We're talking about a remnant that's been scattered for years, feeling isolated, misunderstood, carrying burdens that made no sense until now. Think about it. How many times in the past month have you found yourself staring at the news, at the chaos in our streets, at the breakdown of systems we once trusted, and felt something stirring in your chest that whispered, "This is why I'm here"? How many times have you looked at the confusion in our churches, the compromise in our pulpits, the silence where prophetic voices should be thundering, and known now that you carry something different? That knowing isn't arrogance, beloved. It's awakening. Jesus spoke of this moment in Matthew 24-37. "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." But here's what most people miss. Noah didn't just survive the flood. He was prepared for it. He was building while others were partying. He was listening while others were laughing. You've been building something too, haven't you? Not with wood and nails, but with prayer and sacrifice. Not with blueprints, but with faith. And now the rain clouds are gathering, and you're starting to understand why God kept you in construction mode for so long. The ground beneath your feet, I mean this literally, is trembling, not just with earthquakes and natural disasters, though those are accelerating. I'm talking about the spiritual bedrock of this nation, the foundations that our forefathers laid with blood and tears and desperate prayers. Those foundations are shifting, and what's being revealed in the cracks is both terrifying and glorious. On one side, you have darkness rising with unprecedented boldness. Evil that used to hide in shadows now parades in broad daylight. Lies that used to whisper now scream from every screen. But on the other, Cedo, chosen one, on the other side you have light breaking forth with equal intensity. Can you feel your spiritual sensitivity sharpening? Can you sense things in rooms that others miss? Do you find yourself discerning hearts, reading atmospheres, knowing things about people before they speak? That's not mysticism, that's the gift of discernment that 1 Corinthians 12:10 speaks of, and it's being activated in you because the hour demands it. Here's what's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about timing. The shift that began in July isn't slowing down, it's compounding. Every week, every month from now, until we see the full manifestation of what God is doing, the intensity is going to increase. The spiritual temperature is rising, and lukewarm Christianity is about to be exposed for the compromise it's always been. Revelation 3:16 warns us, "So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." But you, dear one, you're not lukewarm anymore, are you? You can't be. Something inside you is burning too hot to pretend anymore. The question isn't whether you're ready for what's coming next. The question is whether you're brave enough to admit that you've been feeling it building for months. Whether you're honest enough to acknowledge that your restlessness isn't random, it's prophetic. Your spirit has been receiving downloads that your mind couldn't process, warnings about what's coming, instructions about how to prepare, strategies for how to stand when everything around you is shaking. And now those downloads are starting to make sense, aren't they? Comment, "I feel it," if your spirit knows this isn't over, because something deeper is unfolding layer by layer. And the chosen ones who are paying attention, who are willing to move when heaven gives the signal, are about to step into a dimension of authority and purpose that will leave the world speechless. The shift has begun, and there's no going back to sleep. Chosen one, I need to tell you something that's going to break your heart wide open before it heals it completely. For decades, maybe, your entire life, you've carried a question that's eaten at your soul like acid. You've whispered it in the dark corners of your bedroom, screamed it into your pillow when the pain became unbearable. God, why wasn't it me? Why did they get chosen and I got forgotten? Why was I pushed into the shadows while others stepped into the spotlight? You've watched from the sidelines as people half as committed, half as faithful, half as broken by life got the promotions, got the recognition, got the platforms. And you got the cave, you got the wilderness, you got the silence so thick it felt like God himself had gone deaf to your cries. But listen to me with every fiber of your being. While others were seen, you were sealed, not overlooked, protected. While others climbed platforms, you were sent into the secret place where heaven does its deepest work. You think you were forgotten? Let me shatter that lie right now with the word of the living God. Isaiah 49:2 declares, "He made me a polished arrow, and in his quiver he hid me." Did you hear that? You weren't discarded, you were kept. Like a master archer who saves his finest arrow for the most crucial shot, God has been keeping you hidden, not because you were worthless, but because you were irreplaceable. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if you mattered. God was in his workshop, carving your name deeper into destiny's doorway. Every day you felt invisible to the world. Heaven was making you more visible to the spirit realm. Every season you spent in obscurity, the Almighty was clothing you with authority that no man could give and no devil could take away. You want to know why you were hidden? Because what God was building in you was too precious to be contaminated by applause too early, too sacred to be corrupted by premature promotion, too powerful to be polluted by public opinion before it was perfected in private surrender. Think about David, chosen to be king as a teenager, then sent back to sheep fields for 15 more years. 15 years of seeming delay, while Saul sat on a throne that had David's name on it. But God wasn't delaying David's destiny, he was deepening it. Every year in the wilderness was another layer of character. Every battle with lions and bears was training for the giant he'd face. Every psalm he wrote in solitude became a weapon he'd wield in warfare. You've been asking the wrong question, beloved. It's not, why was I hidden? It's, what was God preparing me for that required this level of isolation? The cave wasn't your punishment, it was your preparation. The wilderness wasn't your exilite, was your education. The silence wasn't God's absence, it was his strategy to develop in you a sensitivity to his voice that crowds could never teach you. You know what happens to arrows kept in the quiver too long? They don't become dull, they become deadly accurate. They don't lose their edge, they gain precision. And when the archer finally draws them out, they don't just hit targets, they split them clean in half. Your hiddenness has been your sharpening. Your obscurity has been your anointing. Your rejection by man has been your selection by heaven. But here's what's about to break every chain of confusion you've carried. You're not about to become something. You're about to reveal what you've always been. The world is about to discover what heaven has always known, that you were never the reject, you were the reserved. Never the forgotten, you were the favored. Never the mistake, you were the miracle waiting for its appointed time. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere around your life. The seal is breaking, the scroll is opening, the quiver is being reached into, and God's hand is wrapping around his finest arrow. Your name is being whispered in rooms you've never entered. Doors are being unlocked that you've never even seen. Opportunities are being prepared that will require every ounce of character you developed in the cave, every drop of wisdom you gained in the wilderness, every fragment of faith you forged in the fire. The hiding season is over. The revealing season has begun. And when you step into what's been prepared for you, the world won't just see your gift, they'll witness God's glory. But are you ready for what comes next? Because once the veil is lifted, there's no going back to invisible. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal to you will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about God's timing. Right now, in this exact moment, there is a divine transfer taking place that is so massive, so earth-shattering, that the angels themselves are holding their breath. Heaven's river is rerouting, and it's flooding everything in its path. You feel it, don't you? That violent trembling in your spirit. That's not anxiety, that's not fear. That's the sound of thrones being overturned in the heavenly places. God is removing crowns from the comfortable and placing mantles on the crushed. He's stripping titles from the proud and clothing the broken with authority that will make demons flee. Listen to me very carefully. What's happening right now defies every human understanding of fairness, of merit, of deserving. The ones who've been sitting in boardrooms making decisions that crush the innocent they're about to discover their influence was always an illusion. The ones who've been weeping in hospital rooms, in empty apartments, in silent desperation they're about to carry the kind of power that reshapes nations. It's not fair, it's divine. It's not logical, it's prophetic. It's not yours by merit, it's yours by mandate. Do you remember Job? For months, his friends told him he must have sinned to deserve such suffering. But God had a different plan. When the transfer was complete, Job didn't just get back what he lost, he received double. Double the cattle, double the wealth, double the influence. Why? Because the crushing wasn't punishment. It was preparation for a divine transfer so massive it would echo through generations. But here's what they don't tell you about divine transfers. They're violent. Not cruel violent, like a woman in labor, screaming as new life tears through her body. Like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon, destroying the very thing that once housed it. This isn't a gentle upgrade. This is a spiritual explosion. You've been living under systems that told you to wait your turn, pay your dues, climb the ladder slowly. But God doesn't operate by human organizational charts. When he moves, he doesn't promote, he translates. One moment you're invisible, the next moment you're undeniable. Jesus said in Revelation 3-7, when he opens a door, no man can shut it. Not if he opens, when he opens. And chosen one, your door isn't creaking open slowly. It's being blasted off its hinges. Right now, there are assignments being ripped away from people who thought they were permanent fixtures. There are contracts being dissolved in boardrooms by forces they can't comprehend. There are inheritances being redirected to bloodlines that have been crying out for justice. There are positions of influence being vacated not through scandal, not through failure, but through divine intervention. And guess who's being called up to fill those spaces? The widows who've been faithful in poverty, the fathers who've been fighting for their children in family courts, the entrepreneurs who've been knocked down 7 times but got up 8, the intercessors who've been praying in nursing homes while their bodies failed but their spirits soared. You think this sounds too good to be true? You think God doesn't move this dramatically? Tell that to the Red Sea that split in half for a bunch of former slaves. Tell that to the walls of Jericho that crumbled at the sound of shouting. Tell that to Daniel who went from the lion's den to the palace in a single day. But here's the part that will stop your heart. This transfer isn't just about moving you from one place to another. It's about moving something through you that will alter the spiritual climate of entire regions. You're not just receiving a promotion, you're becoming a portal. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, his face was so radiant that the people couldn't look at him. That wasn't makeup, that wasn't charisma, that was the residue of divine encounter. And that same residue is about to settle on you with such intensity that rooms will shift when you walk in. The comfortable have grown fat on false security. They've built their kingdoms on compromise and called it wisdom. They've silenced the prophetic voices and called it order. But God is about to show them the difference between man's approval and heaven's anointing. The transfer is already in motion. Can you feel it? That restlessness that won't let you sleep, that dissatisfaction with where you are. That's not depression, that's divine displacement. God is making you uncomfortable in the old place because He's prepared something new. If you feel a hand on your shoulder right now, spiritual or literal, if you sense something stirring in your chest that feels bigger than your body can contain, pause now and comment, "Transfer me, Lord." That moment of obedience breaks every resistance that's been holding back your destiny. This isn't about you becoming famous. This is about you becoming functional in ways that will make hell regret the day it decided to mess with your family. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead is about to raise you from obscurity to influence, from survival to authority, from forgotten to feared by every demonic principality that thought they had you buried. The violently beautiful truth is this: you're not climbing up, you're being called up. There's a difference. Climbing requires effort. Being called up requires surrender. So the question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to let go of who you were to become who you're destined to be? You want to know why your life has been one battle after another? Why trauma found you when you were still innocent? Why betrayal came knocking at your door when you were just learning to trust? Listen closely, chosen one. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because hell saw the blueprints. Think about it. When does the enemy launch his most vicious assaults? When he's bored, when he's got nothing better to do. Number. He strikes when he sees a threat. He mobilizes his forces when he recognizes a weapon being forged. And you, dear one, you've been under siege your entire life because the devil saw your future long before you did. That childhood trauma that still makes you flinch, that wasn't random cruelty. That was a calculated strike against your destiny. The enemy looked down the corridor of time and saw you standing in authority, speaking with fire, breaking chains that have held generations captive. So he sent his best assassins after you when you were too young to understand what was happening. The betrayal that shattered your ability to trust. That friend who turned their back when you needed them most. That wasn't just human failure. That was hell's attempt to poison your well of compassion before you could become the healing voice you were destined to be. You see, the attacks weren't random. They were a map pointing directly to your threat level. Every rejection you faced was hell saying, "We cannot let this voice reach the masses." Every financial hardship was the enemy whispering, "We must keep them desperate, keep them focused on survival instead of their calling." Every relationship that crumbled was darkness declaring, "We cannot let them experience the love that will make them dangerous to our kingdom." But here's what hell didn't calculate. Here's what made every demon in the pit panic when they realized their mistake. You're still here, still breathing, still believing, still burning, with something they couldn't extinguish no matter how hard they tried. Because you weren't preserved by your own strength. You were kept by the very hand of God Almighty, and what God preserves, hell cannot kill. The book of Isaiah declares in chapter 54 verse 17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Not some weapons, Not most weapons, no weapon. Every attack that came against you was already defeated before it was even launched. You survived that depression that whispered suicide in your ear at 3 a.m. You outlasted that addiction that promised to be your master. You endured that season of poverty that tried to convince you God had forgotten your name. You made it through that divorce that attempted to rewrite your identity as unwanted. You pushed past that diagnosis that labeled you terminal. And now you're sitting here, listening to these words, and something inside you is remembering that you're not a victim of circumstances. You're a survivor of spiritual warfare. The enemy saw what you would become and threw everything he had at stopping you. He sent depression to silence your voice. He sent trauma to cloud your vision. He sent betrayal to harden your heart. He sent poverty to limit your reach. He sent sickness to weaken your body. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this divine encounter, I need you to carry 3 unshakable truths with you into the days ahead. First, remember this. The first week of July 2025 is not just approaching, it's racing toward you with heaven's momentum behind it. Every delay you've experienced, every door that seemed to slam shut, every dream that appeared to die was all preparing you for this prophetic window. Your timing isn't late, it's perfect. Second, never forget that you are not walking this journey alone. The same God who preserved you through every attack, who kept you breathing through every storm, who whispered your name when the world forgot it, He is still working in your life right now. At this very moment, angels are being dispatched, doors are being unlocked, and divine appointments are being arranged on your behalf. You are surrounded by heavenly hosts who never sleep, never tire, and never abandon their assignment over your life. And third, you are part of something bigger than yourself. There's a remnant rising, a community of the called who understand what it means to carry fire in a dark world. You're not the only one who's felt misunderstood. You're not the only one who's questioned if God really sees you. Right here, in this sacred space we've created together, there are thousands of others just like you, marked, chosen, and ready to step into their purpose. But let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If not now, when? If not you, who? The world is groaning for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed, and that revelation begins with your next step of obedience. Before we close, I want to speak life over every person hearing these words. Please, if you're able, close your eyes and receive this prayer as if I'm standing right there with you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking directly to your heart. Father God, I come before your throne right now on behalf of every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you know their names, you know their struggles, you know the battles they've fought in secret and the tears they've cried when no one was watching. I pray that you would breathe fresh hope into every weary heart right now. Where there has been confusion, release your divine clarity. Where there has been delay, release your perfect timing. Where there has been rejection, release your acceptance. Where there has been poverty, release your abundance. Where there has been sickness, release your healing power. God, I ask that you would open their spiritual eyes to see the doors you're opening, to recognize the divine appointments you're arranging, to hear your voice above every other voice that's been speaking lies over their lives. Place your hand of protection over them as they step into this new season. Let your favor go before them, your presence surround them, and your peace guard their hearts and minds. Give them the courage to say yes when you call, the wisdom to discern your voice, and the strength to walk in the authority you've given them. Lord, let July 2025 be the month they look back on and say, that's when everything changed. That's when God showed up and showed out in my life. In the mighty name of Jesus, the one who sits at your right hand, making intercession for us, I pray. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Don't let this be a one-way conversation. Drop a comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart through this message. What is He calling you to release? What is He calling you to step into? Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take their own step of faith. And please, don't keep this message to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not forgotten, that their time is coming, that God still has a plan for their life. Together, we're building a community of the awakened, the activated, and the anointed. Thank you for staying with us through this entire journey. Thank you for being brave enough to listen when God was speaking. Thank you for being part of this movement of people who refuse to settle for ordinary when they were created for extraordinary. If this message has impacted your life, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're just getting started, and you don't want to miss what God is going to reveal next. You are loved. You are chosen. Your time is now. Walk boldly into your destiny, chosen one. The world is waiting for what you carry.